We'll have all the local and the national news for you as it happens, and all the sport too. You can contact us 083 3333 975. You can call us 051 846 123 or email jshitoday@wlrfm.com, and we're on Facebook and Twitter too. Let's hear from you. There's an award-winning, she's going to run for the presidency. I remember her, superb journalist, a fearless journalist, investigative journalist, GEMMA O'DOHERTY. She's going to headline a panel of speakers at the Waterford Crystal Leisure Centre, which many of you know on the Cork Road, this Thursday at 7:45 till 9:45. Why? Well, do you know what? I'm going to let Gemma and also Hilary Neal, and you know Hilary, many of you from the South East Patient Advocacy Group as well, and they both join me now. Good morning to both of you, Hilary, and welcome Gemma to Waterford.
Good morning, Eamon. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Hilary, first, if I can ask you, why did you get involved with this meeting, Hilary?
Well, I think that's fairly obvious. We have been fighting for our 24/7 for quite a number of years and our hospital services. Can I just make a very quick statement on that before we talk about Thursday?
Sure.
I was listening there to Darren and David Cognan earlier. I didn't hear Mary Butler and Matt yesterday, but look, it's. I think the report itself has been now released is pretty damning, and the numbers are indisputable. It proves without any doubt that we absolutely monitor 24/7. And, I mean, we have to remember people have died needlessly. People have compromised hearts. This situation has to be addressed by Simon Harris. We as a group are calling on Simon Harris to stand up now and make a statement on this. He said he's claimed in the past he faces all his decisions on expert clinical advice. Well, I think that report is expert clinical advice. It absolutely shows the need for the 24/7. And also, I'm calling on Leo Varadkar as a doctor who has taken a Hippocratic oath to first do no harm, to remember that what he is doing by disallowing us to have this service, he's doing harm to people. People have died. So that's all I'm going to say. It's not about who said, who did, or who didn't do. This is where we're at now, and this is what we want to see. We want to see our 24/7. We deserve it. The people of the South East shouldn't have to go to bed every night worrying that they might have a heart attack. You know, that's all I want to say on that.
Okay. Hilary, actually, I just want to bring in Gemma here as well. Gemma, you know, we've sometimes, I won't say a narrow view, but a very maybe movie-orientated view of corruption. But when we look at things like inequality, and I'm thinking particularly about you entering the presidential race as well, how much is corruption a part of inequality?
Well, first of all, I just want to say how lucky the people of the South East are to have Hilary O'Neill working on their behalf. She's doing this in her own time, tirelessly fighting for a better health service, and goodness knows it is needed down there. How much is corruption part of the problem in Ireland? For me, it is the beginning and end of all of our problems. We are not a poor country. We are, in fact, one of the richest countries in the world, despite everything. But our resources and our taxes are being wasted by Fine Gael, supported by Fianna Fáil in government, and that has been happening for decades. Now, I'm talking about the outrageous waste at the higher levels of the HSE, for example, some of the outrageous salaries that people are paid. I'm talking about these tribunals of inquiry that go on for years and years and cost the taxpayer millions, and nobody is ever sent to prison, nobody ever loses their pensions, and the people of Ireland never see accountability. And this is why I believe that a greedy elite who have been running this country for far too long need to be held to account now, and the Irish people have to say we're not tolerating it any longer.
There are those, for instance, in the HSE who might be listening and would say, hang on a second, you know, I'm in a senior managerial position, I put in incredible hours, I don't get an outrageous salary. Some might point to the fact, though, the figures have changed yesterday, about the huge increase overall in managers as against from frontline staff.
I've had reason to visit Waterford Regional recently with a relative who has a problem with her leg. And, you know, when I go into hospitals, I observe them and I see the pressure that young doctors, nurses and staff on the ground are under, young and not, all ages. These are the people who are being abused by the HSE. And,
let me be very clear. There's no suggestion here that any manager in HSE Waterford is abusing any staff. The managers might say, do you know what, we have very limited resources. We have very restrictive budgets. For instance, on the cardiac care, they have this ridiculous limit on the number of hours that the lab can do, like only 39 hours a week. I mean, they're bigger ministerial, they're bigger policy decisions which are affecting people.
They're policy decisions that could be changed overnight if the government had any vision or any will or any imagination. But from what I can see, they've decamped off to foreign climes for the summer when our country is in a state of national crisis. Now, just in relation to the HSE, we know that one manager in the HSE last year was paid almost €1 million. We know that more than 2,500 staff at the HSE received pay of more than €100,000 in 2017. This is unacceptable. What is also unacceptable is the fact that as a country, we spend one of the highest amounts per capita on health. And look at what we get in return. Nearly 1 million people on hospital waiting lists. It is unacceptable, and I'm saying to the people of Ireland now that we must stand up for our people, for our sick, for our old, for our disabled, for our young, and say we're not taking this anymore.
How do you mobilise that anger, that distress?
Look, the people of France can mobilise their country, their population of 60 million plus, easily. And that's what we need to start thinking.
But Gemma, do we need civil disobedience, more strikes? What are you saying?
I absolutely believe the social contract is broken. Democracy is broken. And once the social contract is broken, that's when citizens have to stand up for themselves. And part of the problem, I believe, in Ireland is that there is a sort of a sleeping cohort there who are willing to tolerate this abuse. And I'm saying to them, you don't have to take this. You're living in a first world country. You don't have to be worrying about your home. You shouldn't have to be worrying about your home being taken by a foreign vulture fund, even though you're paying your mortgage in full. You shouldn't have to be saddened, devastated by the sight of little children sleeping in Garda station. You shouldn't have to witness all of this. You shouldn't have to worry at night about whether something you feel may be a tumour in your body is going to grow because you cannot get an appointment in time. These are not the worries of a first world population, and Ireland and the Irish have to say no more.
Yeah. Would you, Gemma, if you were president, refuse to sign legislation into law if you felt that it was around these issues, whether it was around vulture funds or health issues?
Look, on this matter, first of all, I am not a constitutional lawyer. I have excellent contacts who are, and they would advise me in that regard. I would not sign any bill into law that was not in the best interest of all of our people.
I think that a lot of people will relate to that, Gemma, actually, because the feeling is that politicians talk, but when it comes to the crunch of it, they'll still sign the stuff and still play the game, as it were. What else would you say to people that you would do to clean up the corruption in this country?
Well, I would be sending out a very strong message that people, citizens who have lost family members as a result of murder, homicide, and sexual abuse, for example, people who've taken their lives because they haven't got justice, who were sexually abused as children. I would be saying to them that there would be a sanctuary in Áras an Uachtaráin. I would like Áras an Uachtaráin to be a refuge and a sanctuary for people like that. Unfortunately, most of my work as an investigative journalist has focused on corruption within our police force. And many citizens are extremely frustrated at the level and the nature of policing in this country. And they have lost faith and trust in An Garda Síochána. They see the disgraceful treatment of a hero of mine, and I know many of the listeners, Maurice McCabe, the dreadful allegations that were made against him. And, you know, when a democracy does not have a police force that people can trust, we don't have democracy.
But some would say maybe some echelons, some parts, the higher parts of An Garda, but that there's also men and women out there every day who put their lives on the line, Gemma. We can't put them all under one tag.
Nobody's doing that. What I am saying is that I'm disappointed that only 2 or 3 or 4 people within the force have stood up.
But Gemma, you know how hard it is. Maybe it's so hard for people to speak out. It's not that easy.
My position on that is, you know, many of my colleagues in the media know about this corruption and they're not speaking out about it. I feel within journalism in particular, but also within the Gardaí, there is a duty to speak out. You can't call yourself a journalist if you're not going to hold power to account, to speak truth to power. You can't call yourself a journalist if you're afraid to go into your newsroom every day and talk about corruption, talk about the suffering of the people. Get into another career. Get out of journalism. The same with policing. If you are not upholding law and order on behalf of the citizens, get out of that job. And it might be easy for me to say that. I know people are economic hostages, but there comes a time when they have to have the courage of their convictions and say, actually, I'm not going to live a life like this. I'm going to send out a message to my children that I stood up for what was right. Yeah. And believe me, when you do that, your life will be so fulfilling.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about the last bit of what you said. Your life will be so fulfilling. I've talked to whistleblowers. I have been involved in cases myself which I've investigated and pushed and taken to the end. And I have found in instances a prize for myself and others when I do that. I might sleep better at night, but it's a tough place to be, Gemma.
I totally agree with you. It's a very tough place to be. But the more we speak out about it, the more we encourage others to come forward, and there's safety in numbers. And I have found myself as a, inverted commas, whistleblower within the media, I can sleep at night. When you have the truth on your side, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. And, that's the reality. Yeah. And I would say there's an awful lot of people within the Gardaí and within the media who cannot sleep at night, who are worried about the actions that they know are happening day in, day out, and they're turning a blind eye to them. And one thing I will say is that silence in the face of oppression is complicity with the oppressor.
All right. OK, listen, Gemma, Hilary, back to you. Hilary, where and when can we hear Gemma and the panel of speakers again? Just remind us.
It's sorry, it's Thursday night, this Thursday night, 23rd, at the Old Waterford Crystal Leisure Centre on the Cork Road. Everybody knows it's across from the Ballination graveyard. And Gemma and the team will be there at 7:45. Now, we're expecting a very large crowd, so we'd ask people to come early. There's parking there. It's a good place because it's on a bus route, and, we really do need to start making change, and I think change makers is the way forward. It's a grassroots movement. It's going to go into every community in the country, and, people need to start realising, as working together, we're stronger. Working on our own, we're not. We need to come together, and we need to start working as a unified Ireland, bring Ireland back to what it was. It was a glorious country. I'd love to see Ireland being Ireland of the future for my children, my grandchildren, and not for them to struggle the way they're going to struggle with the way things are presently.
All right, listen, lovely to talk to both of you. Gemma, a pleasure listening to you. Look, and best luck with the talk and with the campaign as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take care. And that's Gemma O'Doherty, their investigative journalist and also presidential candidate. Headlining a panel of speakers. Of course, she'll need to get the nominations from the county councils. That's on the Waterford Crystal Leisure Centre, as you heard there from Hilary as well. Hilary O'Neill of the South East Patient Advocacy Group speaking to us here on Daysha today. Right, some of your calls and texts coming in.